One of the most common things to do with KPIs is to compare the current period to a previous period. Let me show you how easy it is to do that and calculate that and always have that number available to you inside of Flow. Typical use case for this would be to deliver a shift handover report or a daily report, drive scorecards for stand-up meetings, and always have those numbers readily available without having to calculate them in preparation for a meeting. All right, so to do this, we will take a look at maybe our energy usage as an example. So let's take a look at our filler one inputs where we have energy. And we've already taken that energy tag and we've calculated an hourly number, a shiftly number, and a daily number. So let's compare one shift to the other. So our current shiftly number right now is at 41.6 kilowatt hours. Our previous shiftly number was at 41.9 kilowatt hours. I'm going to drag my shiftly measure onto the flow zone calculator, and this will be my percent of change, and we'll just do one shift to the next. If I open it up and look at my retrieval, this is my current period. If I bring my shiftly number in a second time, Flow automatically shifts that backwards one period for me. So we know that typically when you're bringing the same measure in twice, it's so you can do this type of interval comparison. If for some reason I didn't want to compare it to the previous period, but maybe I wanted to compare it to yesterday's shift, so I would want to shift that on a 3-shift schedule. I'd want to shift that 3 shifts ago so that I could compare to, if I'm on first shift right now, instead of comparing to third shift, I want to compare to first shift from yesterday. I could do that. I would just come to my properties and I would move that relative end from my previous period to 3 intervals instead of 1. So, but I'm interested in doing current shift compared to previous shift. Let's go ahead and take that measure out. To run these calculations, we are going to do the current value, the now value. We will subtract the previous value, and then that gets divided by our current. That is going to give us a decimal that I then need to convert to a percentage. Let's validate that, backfill it to the 10th, and we will run it. So a positive number indicates that I'm using more energy than I did in the previous shift, and a negative number is going to indicate that I'm using less energy than I have done in a previous shift. We'll take a look at the values. Flow is currently calculating them, backfilling 2 weeks. Give the engine a second to catch up. And there we go. So I can see that based on my energy consumption, current number compared to previous number, I am saving energy by a factor of 0.125%. And that aligns with the numbers. If I look again at my shiftly number, I can see that my current shift, I've used 41.6 compared to 41.9 on the previous. I had a large energy savings on that previous interval before that, coming from the 46.2, and here we can see that's represented by a negative 10%. Last thing for me to do here is change that unit of measure to reflect the fact that this is a percentage. And now with that, this is ready to be used on any of my reports. There we go. So I added a decimal place, picked up the percentage as my unit of measure, and now I have the beginning of what I will do many different times throughout these KPIs in order to calculate percent of change from current period to previous period. Make sure you also watch the video that is talking about how to calculate projected values, because one of the biggest use cases for this type of tool is for short interval control, where we are trying to constantly be ahead of change inside of the factory, and being able to project values based on our current run rates into the future and compare where we are now, where we are likely to be to where we are supposed to be, is one of the hallmarks of short interval control. And our projection feature makes that a reality and makes it easy. Thanks.